MRN isn't the vanguard. It's an agitprop project. RedScare TV doesn't seem to understand this in his latest video, in which he waffled on about topics that he didn't understand because he was negligent. And I respect you, Mason, because you've been on here a lot longer than me. But you have been woefully negligent, and you talk about needing to be a professional revolutionary, and I understand where you come from in that thing. However, you lead by example, and you haven't been doing that. Of course, the movement is built offline. That is obvious. However, this whole purpose of this network, my channel, is to promote real struggle. That's why we talk about Arizona so much, because the intercommunalist project, the alliance between Maoists, anarchists, and demarchists, is to build a real movement that has potential. You have been dishonest about the situation. Net held up the ship of MRN whilst you were gone, and you place blame on him. That's wrong. That's almost unforgivable. Marxism-Leninism is antiquated. You have demonstrated this with your negligence and your lack of attention. You called me and tried to speak to me and said your audio didn't work or your video didn't work, and yet you can put up a video blaming Net for you not paying attention to a situation. God. Shameful. When Jason began to expand MRN beyond just himself, there are only two people who helped him build this coalition. Without the work of Comrade Net or Mason Steiner, MRN wouldn't have been off the ground. I wouldn't have been involved. And I wouldn't have ever been a content creator, and I probably wouldn't have even been a Maoist. So, you know, I do respect that. I was elected from an early period to be educated in these four tendencies, to strengthen my own and to have a better understanding of why other people don't follow the tendency I follow, because that's a necessary thing, and we have collaborated a lot before other tendencies. The new multipolar movement has a name: the United International Intercommunalist Convergence, or as I call it, the Intercommunalist Convergence for short. There was always meant to be two camps. The first one, the federated camp, which includes third worldists, anarchists, Maoists, and demarchists. And the second camp is the American Leninist camp. This is not left unity, nor is it sectarianism. The federated camp was to be represented by MRN in an online forum. MRN is a very small part of a wider plan and a wider scale. The tip of the iceberg is what you have seen, and especially what people who aren't involved or keep attention to. And we can't expect people who aren't involved to have full attention. That's why making videos like this isn't something I like to do. But when you act like an ass, I have to treat you like a fucking donkey. So that's the case. The American Leninist camp was to be under control of Mason Steiner, together with Chad Antifa and hopefully Danky Kang. A new ML party would be created and open to Maoism, Dengism, Jucheism, and even Khrushchevism. This is political heresy. However, it would exist if Chad Antifa, the fellow traveler, could justify such a terrible, horrible synthesis. In the months before Mason Steiner's decision to leave for the Great Lakes, he became distant, leaving it to us to deal with the disillusioned fellow traveler Chad Antifa. I will not talk about Mason's personal life, and I don't know what he's going through, but regardless, Net was left to organize everything. The reason why Mason Steiner wanted Danky Kang and Connor Gillis was because these people were their friends. Panther Code found this promising. We are working together to figure out how Crantha Code was tricked, and while we have our suspicions, it is unclear who created such a misrepresentation of the predator Lizzie, making her look like a friend of the people. Speaking of which, Liz, stop incriminating yourself further, and if you go after me again, I will fucking end you, you absolute shithouse. I need to explain why the federated camp represented by MRN has 4 conflicting tendencies. Otherwise, this will get confusing. The official theory of the federated MLM cadres goes as follows. China regressed back to capitalism because while Mao correctly understood that Lenin and Stalin feared their own I wish I could edit this, but I'm too mad and I'm too frustrated. So fuck it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. The official theory of the federated MLM cadres goes as follows. China regressed to capitalism because Mao correctly understood that while both Lenin and Stalin feared their own bureaucracies would betray the people. However, the Soviet bureaucracy won over in Russia after the death of Joseph Stalin. Mao Zedong decided to have a lack of bureaucracy, which is a correct move. However, the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward did pull off an unbelievable feat that some would call miracles, there are also disasters that came out of this situation. The Maoist solution to this is that any further cultural revolutions should probably be primarily led by anarchists due to them not always and not situationally ever opting into bureaucracy generally, except for very minimal formations like platformism or etc. CNT-FA. Maoists build a bureaucracy to guide this. As the revolutionary process continues, the anarchists would have unrestrained power to line struggle with any emerging MLM vanguard, which must also be kept separate from the Maoist bureaucracy. A type of anarchism that I speak of is the commune of anarchy theory, which is radical and even dialectical. The Bolshevik way of anarchism must not be the Maoist way of dealing with anarchism. Dialectics requires line struggle. Third worldists have been developing theory. Maoists see M3Ws as just revolutionary MLM with very little faith in the First World Movement. However, the third worldists have a theory that at least in the First World, has the power to cause change should be carried out and by the repressed yet highly advanced versions of Maoism and anarchism. This is for 2 reasons. The first reason is that third worldism sees this as resistance in the first world, and this justifies their theory of multipolarism on the far left. The second reason is that third worldists believe that this will cause issues for the first world, thus weakening it. But the third worldists believe that we will fail after a long string of successes. Helping us do what we are trying to do helps both third worldists and Maoists. That's why we unite generally, as well as having similar theories, such as which I assert that third worldism isn't a separate stage at all. The more I learn about the theory of third worldism, the more I begin to think it's just Maoism with a stronger tendency for revolutionary suicide than any other Maoist tendency. Demarchism is a direct challenge to Marxism and a theoretical rebuke of anarchism. Demarchists don't reject communism, they reject words as communist, communism, and communists. They see these words as chauvinistic and assimilationist. Personally, I think this is bullshit, but I would warn any Marxists not to assume that they understand Demarchism or what it is and what they fight for. Maoism isn't anti-Demarchism. Rather, Maoists question the accuracy of Demarchists, yet we don't just flat out reject all they say. Demarchists see Maoism as better than plain Marxism-Leninism, yet still chauvinistic, however, much less colonial, whereas I would reject the idea that Maoism is colonial. The Democrats see the theory of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, Third Worldism as the only communist theory that can justify Marxism. The Democrats are in no way anti-anarchist, rather they see the anarchists as a paradox of ethical yet utopian and silly ideas. I do have to reject the notion that there is a fourth stage of Marxism, but I digress. Now on to my self-criticism. I should have stood up for Comrade Net more when inexperienced comrades like Chad Antifa patronized him occasionally. When Comrade Net told me I had to rebuke Mason Steiner for starting a fight with Black Red Guard, in which I did accidentally give out personal information that has been deleted since, and I do regret that. However, I don't regret criticizing you for going after Black Red Guard. Black Red Guard probably doesn't give a shit about your going after him, but this was the moment that Panther Code became very annoyed with RedScare TV. Comrade Net still owes a debt to Panther Code, something that has cost him a lot of his health. I should not have let you take the fall. I knew it was Panther Code that was upset with all of this. I'm sorry, Comrade Net. You haven't done anything wrong. Mason, it is so chauvinistic for you to assume that Net is in the fault for this. You have placed yourself in a situation that was going to cause a reckoning. Your inattentiveness. You talk of being a professional revolutionary, but that comes with actual responsibility. You should know this better than anyone. You're older than me. The criticism of Chad Antifa. There is a cult of personality we like to call the cult of Travis. It is an echo chamber typically fueled by leftism today's lack of investigation. Chad Antifa stepped away from real-life activism. You make uninformed statements about those who think outside of Marxism-Leninism. Marxism-Leninism isn't universal and has setbacks, even traces of colonial thought in it. If you had real reasons to reject Maoism, anarchism, or third worldism, that would be one thing. Yes, you've been around anarchists and you clearly like them and know that they are comrades. You don't understand their theory, and you assume too much based off of your reading and watching of bad content, rather than actual anarchist theory and practice in the 21st century. You have impasse, which is the most damning thing. This isn't about you, Trav. You're still my comrade, you're still my friend, but this is rough. You yelled at Third Worlder from the Middle East. This is the in which the weapons of UK, Israel, and the US are used to kill his people. Yet you told him he was backwards because he didn't back LGBT struggles, which is an unfortunately common position. But yet, for cultural reasons, has a precedent. Congratulations, fella. These weapons are used to kill his people, and you called him backwards because he didn't back LGBT struggles. But at the same time, culturally, they are better than most everyone in the West. The West is chauvinistic, not just in an economic, but a philosophical sense too. Falcone, on the other hand, a person part of the LGBTQ community, talked to the same third worlder and she had no issues with him. Fourth worlders and third worlders agree that the first world is the problem. What a surprise. The worst thing you've done is reject the name Chad Antifa when Mason Steiner, Comrade Net, and Jason Unruh picked it for you. They found out their Chad Antifa that they did so because they found their Chad Antifa. They did so because you openly said Antifa action was correct. But now you're just Trav, boring Travis, who has gone into a grifting fantasy world running to help leftism today when he started beef with Has. And I understand backing your friend. I still back you, Trav. However, you aren't as involved as you have been in the past. I'm not as well. However, I'm still connected and you seem to drift away. Leftism today, you're a part of the American Leninist. No one holds ill will towards you. In fact, you are loved a lot, but you talk too much shit. And sometimes you act pig-headed. Leftism today. No investigation, no right to speak. Starting a fight with Haz puts all of us in hot water. He's dumb. Who gives a shit? Caleb Maupin and Jason Unruh both reserved the right to sharply disagree, yet you had to act like they broke up when in fact they've always disagreed and openly. You should hold a stronger leash on LT's neck, Chad Antifa. Make more content together. Both of you insist on only being on the internet and giving people good shows. At least, Trav, you're finally tearing apart Kyle like he should. That is one of the best things you've done very recently. I do commend you for that. Mason. I've talked about you before, but time to go into a little more depth. RedScare TV. You should listen more. You're warned by Comrade Net and Comrade Number 3 not to come to Arizona until invited. And of course, when you decided without asking to come to Arizona, while Net was in a crisis that was tame until it boiled up, you left Comrade Net to hold everything for you. Now, I know people you wanted to meet and they are upset with you. Connor Gillis did correct line struggle to your theory whilst respecting it for what it is. She said not everyone in this new America would want to call it America, and white people needed to take a back seat. Then Danke said the same. Your understanding of revolutionary intercommunalism is weak and underdeveloped. Revolutionary intercommunalism doesn't contradict New Africa. You have no say as to whether there is a New Africa. Your views on Frantz Fanon are offensive at least and colonial at worst. It was Connor Gillis who line struggled against that. We liked her for it. She turned out to be a rad-lib in socialist clothing. Saying all the right words, and she knew what she was talking about. We are angry that we found out the Masonite for what she really was. And we didn't know it from the start, and I regret that. You could have worked more with Chad Antifa on your theory of New America, but you left him in isolation. This cannot be tolerated, Mason. Comrade Net is being watched every day. You don't understand that even though they were not ready for you, they had a plan to get ready, and they were in the middle of something, but the important stuff they had planned got put on hold because they came to try and get you to Arizona. So they had to plan last minute. The plans on Dr. Weisfeld are one of the things that was put on hold. Because they needed to make sure they could keep you protected as they live in the actual struggle, something you can't grasp. When you did not show, things got worse. All that planning for something special was for you as a guest, and you didn't even show. Your reasons don't matter, and it resulted in... Your reasons don't matter. The result of your actions you cannot run away from. You're the only Dangus we trusted, and maybe some of us still trust you. RedScare, we needed you. Comrade, I want you to be a part of this. However, you have created difficulties with your ignorance. You're the founder of American Leninism, and a podcast was created for you. Jason, Net, Trav. So far, you have ignored the need for the struggle session. So I have brought a struggle session towards you. What RedScare TV has lost in fan base, he once had in the Southwest. RedScare TV has lost the fan base that he once had in the Southwest. You not showing up meant you could not meet 3 special people that you thought you were going to meet. Connor Gillis has damaged us all. She had improvements on your theory that made us feel more comfortable. Everything that happened with Chad Antifa and leftism today Carnegillis, all else is something you have high responsibility for. Carnegillis has become your own personal prairie fire. Why, Mason? Why?